This is the Future Christian Podcast, a conversation about church leadership, fresh ideas, and the future of the church. In today's episode, Martha and I take a bit of a conversational detour. What begins with sports, culture, and a few shared laughs quickly turns into a reflection on leadership, character, and the ways community form identity and belonging. Along the way, we talk about competition, integrity, and what everyday cultural moments can reveal about how we live and lead as Christians. A reminder before we start today's conversation, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share Future Christian with a friend. You can connect with Loren, Martha, and Future Christian on Instagram. Send us an email at loren@resonatemediapro.com with comments, questions, or ideas for future episodes. Your support and voice mean a lot to us in making this podcast possible. Hello, welcome to the Future Christian Podcast. My name is Loren Richmond Jr., and I am pleased to be here today with my co-host extraordinaire, Martha Tatarnik, way up from the great state, or excuse me, my goodness, that is not a Freudian slip, from the great nation of Canada.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Oh my gosh, that is a bad slip, Loren, but
Yeah.
yes, I'm glad to be with you. It's not quite the same as our in-person experience of last year, but, we can hope that we'll get to meet in person again one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gosh, I have kicked us off great there. So, what do we want to talk about today, Martha?
Well, we could start by talking about how we will never be the 51st state, but maybe we want to lead off with something a little lighter. We've been talking a bit about, I really appreciate every time Canada and the U.S. go to battle in a great big sports match that everybody's watching. We have some interesting texting that goes back and forth as we each root for the home team. And aside from last year when we had a bet and Canada won and I won that bet, it's been a pretty hard road to walk as a Canadian sports fan ever since. There was the NHL Stanley Cup that didn't go our way. There was the World Series that didn't go our way. Now there's the Olympic hockey gold medal matches that did not go our way. So it's been hard for us here in Canada.
So you're gonna have to corral me because we're gonna get into this, how much we can talk about sports. But I'm thinking about, I saw this meme or this post on social media, how close Canada was inches away from the IKF slide. Or I don't know if you followed that closely, but
no.
I think it was Game 7, I think it was the bottom of the ninth where Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, I know the name because I follow baseball too closely, but he makes that slide in and he just misses it by 6 inches maybe.
Yeah.
And then they showed it with the other picture of Devon Taves, who's a member of the Colorado Avalanche. He makes the U.S. goalie, I think it's I can't remember his name, Connor Hellebuyck, makes the stick save again, inches away from winning the gold. So these poor Canadian fans, inches away from 2 monumental wins.
Yeah, it's been pretty devastating, I have to say. And I know, when the women lost the gold medal to the States, you texted me and said, Martha, you're getting a little surprisingly emotional about this. And it is just a game, but also it's a game that has a lot of money behind it. It's a game that that has a lot of politics behind it. It's a game that has a lot of identity behind it, especially something like hockey, maybe baseball to a lesser degree. But, it is hard when, the nation with the most weapons and the biggest economy keeps winning. You kind of hope that that sports is like a more neutral ground for competing and working out differences, and may the best person win, and the most talent rise to the top. And we all know that there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. And certainly in my neck of the woods in the States, like, we're probably thrilled that the women and the men both won the hockey golds, but there's even been some political complications with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to hear how that sits with all of you, because like the behaviors around the men's hockey team, to my mind, would really dampen the enthusiasm for that win. Like, does that sort of feel like hard to absorb?
Yeah, I think it was like a couple things come to mind. One, I was less like in the aftermath of the men winning, like there was a lot of criticism of their reaction, and I feel like that's a bit unfair because like they're in the hot, they're immediately off the emotional high of winning. They're kind of going crazy in the locker room, and the president calls them and says something stupid. Like, I don't really, frankly, feel that strongly about their reaction, because it's like, again, they're caught at the moment. Like, what are you supposed to, like, turn on a dime and be like, no, president, leader of the free world, that's not appropriate. But like, it was just like, I was more disappointed again, like in my nation's leaders, like I don't know what your equivalent would be in Canada, Martha, but like the leader of the FBI, like going and like throwing down booze in the locker room, the president of the United States making a joke about like not wanting to invite the women's team. I'm just like, man, come on. Like, I just want like more class. Like, I just want more like honor and respect from like my nation's leaders.
Yeah, like you sort of assume that in a country of how many million people live in the US? How many?
A lot.
Like,
forget
that you could hire grown-ups for those top jobs. Like,
yeah.
Is that too low of a bar to set? Like, or too high of a bar to set? Like, you can't have people who just are able to be adult in the room? Like, it's baffling.
Well, I want to highlight here, if only because I'm trying to get it on the internet, if only because I thought she was like one of the few adults in the room of late. I'm struggling to find it. Hillary Knight, who was a 3-time, I think 4-time now Olympian. She put out a quote. Again, I'm trying to find the exact quote. She's on the American team, kind of in response, and she called it distasteful, the president's comments. And I thought it was like the most mature comment anybody had made regarding the entire situation. So I can't pull up I'm struggling to pull up her quote right now, but I think I wanted to kind of highlight her, I thought, maturity and wisdom in, frankly, the whole situation.
Yeah. When others go low, you go high. Like, I think that does take a great deal of maturity, because probably the first instinct is not to go high.
Right.
Like, probably the first instinct is just to lash out.
Yeah.
I'm just going to note for our listeners, because they can't really see this, but I am wearing the only piece of sports paraphernalia that I own. And so I hope that you appreciate this, Loren, but I'm wearing my Raptors hoodie.
Okay, yeah.
We the North.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have worn something. I have plenty of sports around me here and where I'm sitting. So
yeah, well, I thought that I would wear that just for you, because I know that you are a huge sports fan, and I am really a bandwagon sports fan. Like, I'm very open about that. Like, I can express a lot of opinions about sports if I get really into a certain series. But, take it with a grain of salt, because I don't know that much about anything.
Well, and this is a good leadway to what we want to talk about too, is that I recently texted Martha and I'm like, Martha, I hope you're willing to admit this, like on air, right? Your reality TV interest.
Yeah, I'm willing to
Okay.
admit that.
Okay. So, like, I realize, like, sports is now, like, I recognize sports has become my reality TV. So, let me share a few things about sports, Martha, and you can share if you find parallels or
Yeah.
comparisons in reality TV. So, like, one thing for sure that I've been ridiculously emotionally involved with is like there's this NFL quarterback, Russell Wilson, who had a successful career with Seattle Seahawks, got traded to my hometown team, the Denver Broncos. I was really excited because I was a fan of his, fan of the Broncos. Like it didn't work out well. And like I felt like he really got scapegoated. And
Hmm.
I think there was some of like my own kind of personal angst. So like I've been like so stupidly emotionally involved in his career over the last few years. And I'm just like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I so emotionally invested in this? And I purposely try not to get emotionally invested in so many things, but like I follow sports. I imagine like a lot of people follow reality TV, or I know like to some degree it's, I wouldn't say like manufactured, but there's certainly some like production and you know what I'm saying in crafting storylines to at least to some degree. And like I follow it like obviously watching regularly, following storylines, seeing what my favorite athletes are doing. Certainly invested in the outcomes of games, but yeah, I was just thinking broadly about like my investment in sports sort of as a useful distraction from life. And then like, what do you think it says about humans maybe in our angst or cultural angst? I don't know that we're so into reality TV.
Yeah.
Actions.
I mean, I think that there are so many parallels, and to a large extent, I mean, they both are reality TV. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, reality TV is more scripted and produced than watching a match. But I think it's kind of exciting in the same way. Like you set up some parameters, you throw some
Mm-hmm.
people into it, and you see what happens, right?
Right.
Like you're
Right.
kind of watching human nature deal with a a certain game. Like a lot of reality TV shows are based on a game. Like this is the game. This is how you get
Right.
to the end. This is
Right.
how you win, right? And so it's interesting. It's an interesting social experiment, I think, in a
Mm-hmm.
similar way to sports. Like you set up the parameters, you see what happens. And I think that both sports and reality TV, and again, like I say this as somebody who um, really hasn't been a sports fan. My son is really into um, watching, especially like when we get to the playoffs and stuff of various
Yeah. Yeah.
games. So I've gotten into watching stuff because of him, and I've like really enjoyed it. And I think I've really enjoyed it for a lot of the same reasons that I enjoy reality TV. So on the one hand, I think you have this distraction, as you said. Like, I think that's a
Right.
good word. It's like you can get really emotionally invested in something that isn't actually that consequential, right? Like it feels like everything is on the line, but when your team loses, you're going to wake up the next day and like materially your life is still going to be the same, right? Like you're you're
I'm like within me, I'm like fighting that. I'm like, no, Martha, it's not the same.
But, like, you're not like, your life is
Right.
not in danger, your job
Right.
is not on the line, unless you, like, work
Right.
for a
I mean, we
sports
could talk
team.
about sports betting being like a huge,
Well,
I
yeah.
think, cultural problem in the States, but I digress from that for right now.
Yeah, okay, I mean, like, those things aside, like, if you're just purely watching it for the love of the sport, like, it feels consequential, it doesn't really change your life. But on the other hand, as we kind of alluded to at the beginning, talking about money and politics and all of those things, I think that we underestimate the importance of sports and reality TV to our detriment. Like, I think that there is, especially with reality TV, I think that there is a tendency to just like assume that it's silly and that it is mindless.
Yeah.
And to miss the forest for the trees, the forest being like the leader of the United States of America is a former reality TV star, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Like reality TV is an excellent mirror to ourselves. It is an excellent mirror to what captures people's attention, what they are talking about, how they perform, how like basic human nature reacts to certain social situations and you know how we reward certain behaviors, right? Like it's an amazing commentary on ourselves. Like if you want to understand your culture better, watching reality TV is a good place to start.
Yeah. I'm thinking just about, again, in my world, sports, and how like the characteristics, or how did you say it again? The behaviors. Can't remember what word did you use?
Yeah.
That we reward.
Yeah, the behaviors we reward.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we want to talk about sportsmanship. I imagine you're familiar with that word, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a word that...
Yeah, I'm familiar with that word.
I don't want to make too many assumptions about your sporting knowledge, Martha. Sportsmanship certainly gets bantied around, like in youth culture, and there's some like, but I just think like the ultimate marker of value, like in sports, is whether you won or lost. And I think this is, again, where I'll bring it back to my guy, Russell Wilson. Like I have like 3 football jerseys in my closet, NFL jerseys, actually 4 now, but 3 of them are like really 2 of them are Colin Kaepernick, who, for really deep sports fans or folks who are culture warriors, so to speak, might remember that name. Like I have a Colin Kaepernick jersey because it certainly was controversial at the time, but I respected his desire to stand up for what he believed in, or in his case, take a knee for what he believed in.
Yeah.
I have a Tim Tebow jersey, another kind of like deep sports pull, but he's a professing Christian, has done a lot of good in nonprofit and disability work communities, stuff like that. Certainly to the right of me, and I think theologically, but someone I respect for his commitment to trying to do the right thing. And then again, Russell Wilson, a guy I respect for his faith. So I found like I just don't like rooting for people who are just like dirtbags.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
How does that parallel to like reality TV?
Well, it's interesting because like 2 of my favorite shows right now are Survivor and Traitors. And
Traitors? What's Traitors?
Oh my gosh. Traitors it's what's kind of called third wave reality TV. So it's like it pulls people from all different shows. So like people that you would know from previous shows, and then they come on to the Traitors. And a couple of like, it's this group dynamic. They're in a castle in Scotland, and a few of the people are selected at the beginning of the game as traitors. And every night they murder somebody. I mean, they don't literally, like, spoiler alert, they're not really murdering people, but like somebody gets murdered. And then every day there's a round table where they try to guess the traitors. And if they have to banish somebody, and they're trying to banish a traitor, so that at the end you just have faithfuls. If at the end of the game there are just faithfuls left, then they get the money. But if there's one traitor left at the end, then the traitor takes all the money. So it's like it. So in both that show and Survivor, there is a lot of deceit that is
Yeah.
built into the game. And there is like a sort of purity to the game, like that you are allowed to behave in ways that you wouldn't normally behave. You're allowed to lie. You're allowed to,
Right.
like manipulate people in ways that wouldn't be applauded in the real world, but it's a game. It's a game. You have to play the game. Like, just play the game. Don't get like too caught up in feeling badly about playing the game or hurt that
Yeah.
somebody played the game against you. And at the same time, there are all of these dynamics that you also kind of watch in terms of how the audience like reacts to how people play the game. That at the end of the day, there is still like a draw toward those who seem to be playing with some level of integrity, some kind of revealing of character that that we can feel good about. So yeah, it's interesting to see that as kind of an element. And I mean, even like dating shows, they're not set
Right.
up as games, but they are games. Like,
Right, because you want to win the relationship, I suppose.
you want to
right?
win the relationship, but then also with all of these shows, like the real win is actually Instagram followers.
Right.
Like,
Right.
this is a pipeline toward becoming a professional influencer. So like
Yeah.
there's but how you play the game, how you navigate the dynamics is going to influence how many people want to follow you outside of the show.
See, and this is where your point about it being a mirror, I think, are perfect. Because two things come to mind for me. One is like, I don't know if you feel this way in Canada, but man, in the States, it just feels like corruption and just blatant self-dealing has just become the norm. And I think there's just this assumption in American culture that like everybody is corrupt, so you might as well go out and get yours.
Yeah.
I mean, quite literally, like this is what I find so just infuriating about our leadership right now in the States. It's just like the blatant corruption. It's just infuriating, and it seems to be just kind of like, well, I think they're just because like there's a sense like everybody's doing it, so at least they're doing it, and so why not? Two is you point about like the dating shows. The goal is like winning for Instagram. To again bring this back to my sports, like the ESPN, which is I don't know if you guys get ESPN in the Canada, but ESPN, like one of the things used to be like a pretty reputable like sports news cable channel. Now it's just like garbage because like they realize like the goal isn't to have sports programming. The goal is to go viral on social media.
Yeah.
So it's just like people yelling at each other. And again, like this is kind of what I think about how this trickles down to church in our broader cultures. Like the goal is just to go viral on, like, even as we're recording this, Martha, like Riverside will give me, the AI will give me an AI produced several different clips that they are most likely to go viral, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, all of that gets tied up into, feeling like you have something that you want to communicate and feeling like you have something that should be communicated. But like to what degree do you sort of succumb to the cynicism of all of it, right?
So if I can bring us back here, because I feel like we could talk about this for a long time. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I can talk about reality TV all day. Like, seriously.
I mean, I can talk sports all day too. So no shame. What do you think? Like, where's the connection here to ministry, to church leadership? Because I think, yeah, I don't even know.
Well, I think that there's a huge connection. And it's one that I think about a lot because, like, the scale is very different. I mean, if you're not a mega church evangelical pastor in the States, like, there are some celebrity pastors, but the vast majority of people who are in church leadership are by no means, in the realm of celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
However, we are um, we are under public scrutiny on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And and we do depend on building some kind of platform
Yeah.
to some degree. Again, like, it's a very different scale,
Mm.
and it may or may not involve like social media or an online component, but there is um, a necessity, if you are a church leader, for people to believe that you have something to say that they want to hear, right? Like,
Right.
I don't think there's anything cynical about saying that. That is just the
I
reality.
think
Like,
it's, yeah,
we are
reality.
professional communicators, among other things. Like,
Right.
but that is a component of our job. And it's not the only reason why people join churches, and it's not the only thing that makes a church successful. But again, it is a component of
Mm-hmm.
what flourishing ministry looks like, is that there is a message that is being communicated effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think, um, you know, comes a lot of pressure that I think in one way or another you have to figure out how to navigate. And hopefully that you can figure out how to navigate in a healthy way, because you will, in ministry, run up against um, people making assumptions about you, and um, and
Mm-hmm.
projecting things onto
Right.
you, and judging how you present yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
how you speak and what you say, and whether you should have said that or whether you should have said something else. And
Right.
um, I mean, the scrutiny I've gotten over the years about how I dress and
Mm.
like wardrobe choices that I make. I don't know whether it's the same for men.
No, it's not. It's not.
Um, yeah, so there is a lot that gets projected onto you. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of hero worship and scapegoating that can happen in the midst of that, especially when
Yeah.
systems feel anxious. So, like, there are dynamics that I think we see in the public sphere and in the sphere of celebrity that, again, are very different in scale, but they're not completely different in content.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Let me reemphasize. I mean, I do not think men face near, at least, yeah, I don't think we face, broadly speaking, like near the amount of, like you said, critique on our appearance or dress or work-life balance. Like, I think there's still, perhaps it's changing. Hopefully it's changing. Like, um, that's for sure different. I'm curious, like, I know something that I've just heard again and again recently is there's so much now, I think, critique around what a pastor will say, like in a sermon. And like, I'm thinking of, I don't know if you saw this, but a government official in the States recently criticized the Pope's interpretation of what the Bible has to say about immigration, which is just like, I mean, shocking and appalling, but also somehow unsurprising. So there is this kind of like, and I'm curious, like, if it's like this in Canada, there is this kind of just assumption that, like, anything the preacher says is up for challenge and debate.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially when you're weighing in on hot topics and politics, especially, it is, you're really inviting some vitriol. And at the same time, like, I, I mean, my friend and colleague Tom, who works with me here at St. George's, we've both said, like, we have talked about politics more in our sermons over the past year than we probably have in our entire career before now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, as much as you're inviting blowback, if you're not speaking to the things that everybody is concerned about and like that
Right.
is kind of front and center in our collective conversation, if we're not speaking to that, then like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
do you, I'm interested, like, in the mainline church, how much politics gets discussed in the States.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be frank, like, this may be unpopular. I think it's too much, but I think what I mean by that is I think sometimes there can be too much, like, nitty-gritty politics, and rather than, like, like more clear, like, again, I think, like, scripturally, like, I don't think there's any lack of clarity on, like, treatment of immigrants. Like, I think that's a biblically clear.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, it's funny, like, I just saw news this morning that John Piper, I don't know if you've heard that name, pretty big name in conservative circles, at least in the States, Reformed pastor and theologian, like, tweeted something about Leviticus, like, we should welcome the stranger. Like, again, pretty obvious, like, you should treat people with dignity and respect, like, a no-brainer. And of course, he got, like, all this pushback from people on the right.
Wow.
Of, like, oh, caveat, 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 caveat. So to me, like, I would love to see, like, more, like, I would really, really love to see some just really more, like, less about, like, critiquing. Because I think when you critique, in my opinion, I may be wrong on this, but I think when there's like direct critique of policy, that invites, oh, you're being partisan. If you're like, listen, like, this is, I don't know how you, again, like, I think the Bible's clear, and, like, we're all created in the image of God. Like, this is what I try to email, like, my congressman, my local representative. Like, we're all created in the image of God. Christ died for all. God loves us all. Like, to me, that's pretty clear. Like, let's lean on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think it's pretty clear, and that's why it can feel just really, I guess, polarizing when such hard lines are taken for religious reasons that don't line up with that. Like, it feels confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, like, I think I just read Ryan Burge's new book, and he made the point that there really is, like, a far right and a far left in the States that's really driving the conversation. And many folks are not, like, directly in the middle, but, you know, they're not at the extremes. And you brought up the word, like, anxiety. I think there is this anxiety of, like, we have to align with one of those two sides. And I think, like, the anxiety is really strong. They're really strong on the right, obviously, right now, of, like, we have to be, like, all in on just whatever a certain person says in our states, or a certain person says in the United States, if you know what I mean. I was listening to, I'm always tempted to text you these, Martha, because I know your husband loves him. Carrie Newhoff podcasts.
Right. Loves them.
And he had on, amongst other guests, Ed Stetzer, who's pretty sure he's Baptist, and certainly I would consider, like, pretty conservative theologically. But he was saying at his church in California, he was leading, like, a sermon series, and, like,
Oh my gosh,
like, if you come out as, like, anti-woke, like, that's a ticket to church growth in the States. And it is. And I think this is, like, the real danger.
That's amazing.
is like I shouldn't say we because I don't, but many people are like, oh, look what God is doing.
Yeah.
Like we're just coming out hard right, flirting with Christian nationalism. And then it's like, oh, all these people are flooding to our church and look what God is doing. And I appreciate Ed Stetzer said this. Again, I disagree with him on some points theologically, but I think he's a wise person. He said he appreciates people coming to know Jesus, but he also is like concerned about the implications.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, like they're being formed or they're being discipled not so much in Christianity, but in like hard right politics.
Yeah, hard right politics. And I mean, I think a variety of people that we have interviewed here and there about numbers and Christianity and decline and all of those kinds of things have pretty accurately identified that, a major component of why that sort of hardline right version of Christianity / politics, that anti woke, does attract numbers is because it, like, people do, I guess, if they subscribe to that worldview, feel like they need a place to go with that, right? Like, so like you're kind of building your growth model around being in opposition to things.
Yeah.
Versus like being in solidarity with or standing alongside or whatever. Like, and I think that can be a big temptation if you're feeling disenfranchised and angry. You can feel pretty passionate about joining a group that shares that with you.
Right. So, I mean, I want to ask this hard question to you, Martha, if I can, since we're kind of like exploring hard questions. I think I talked to you about this, like when we met in person, like when we went to your husband Dan's church, like there was Canadian flags in the sanctuary. And like, that's a thing that's been very controversial in the States of like having an American flag in your sanctuary. So certainly like there's a lot of pushback and for good reason and sensitivity on this in the States. Like, what do you think? Like, how do you be like Christian and patriotic? Because I don't think like necessarily like having an American flag in your sanctuary is like horrible, but also like it's become this hot button issue. So it seems like you all like in Canada perhaps navigated this a little bit more successfully than some of us in the States. So what do you think is like the tension or the balance that you have to have there?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is no easy answer to that. And I would say that you're going to find different denominations, and then within denominations come down on different answers. I mean, the Anglican Church does tend to be historically a little more aligned with the establishment. Like Church of England is a national church, like right? Like there's definitely an alignment between church and state that we are historically connected to. Like here at St. George's, we are the regimental church for or the garrison church for the local regiment. And so their flags fly not fly, but are hung in our sanctuary. We have a Canadian flag. We have a British flag. A lot of those flags reflect the history of St. George's. And, there would be lots of Christians who would think that is really inappropriate. Although for us, it's just kind of the waters that we swim in. I know when I served in an Anglican Lutheran church, there was a lot more pushback against anything that sort of reeked of supporting a particular nation because
Okay.
of the history of the Lutheran Church and Nazism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I was just thinking that.
yeah, so like there was a real discomfort with anything that
Mm-hmm.
reminded people of that. I think how I sort of square that circle myself is I do feel very grateful to live in Canada, and having some reflection of gratitude for being able to live in a country that is free and where I can practice my faith and be who I am with freedom seems like seems like something to lift up with gratitude to God.
Right.
But
Right.
but there's definitely a fine line there.
Yeah. I'm appreciating that you brought up like the different cultural contexts of like Anglicanism or the Church of England certainly having some, cultural connection and more than just cultural, but certainly it's part of like the history of the establishment to the state. You mentioned, the Anglican Lutheran Church, certainly there in their past history. But again, you mentioned the flags, and I'm thinking like, I think it was, you weren't there when Dan took my wife and I
Yeah, no, it's
to,
not there. St.
gosh, what was this?
Albans.
Okay, no, not just in St. Albans, but in the Toronto church.
Oh, right.
One of the interesting things, like I still remember, is he's talking about all these different flags, and they're all just like, so many of them were like so old and deteriorating. And he said it was part of the history that they just hang up there until they fall, and then a new one goes up. And it was such a little interesting historical tidbit there.
Yeah. Well, he was full of historical tidbits when you came to
Yeah.
visit.
My wife was bored to death, but I was enjoying it.
Oh my gosh, the truth comes out.
She's like, Loren, why can't we just spend more time in, what's that other place we went to? The
Niagara on the Lake, Niagara
yes,
Falls.
she's like, let's just do Niagara on the Lake all day, every day.
We don't need to hear the whole history of every piece of Niagara.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yeah, we have different tastes, and that's what makes our marriage work, I think. I want to ask about this too, because like I recently had this realization, and this is probably going to come out a little bit strong, so hopefully no future churches are hearing it too strong, but like I don't think I'm like lead pastor material, if that makes sense. And I want to frame it this way, like seeing your role, how you work on like a team, like you have if I understand, I don't know how you describe like your co-pastors, like
we co-rectors, co-pastors, yeah.
Like I just like a good friend of mine said this to me a while back, and I think it's really clicked to me. Like there's certain things I'm not good at, and having to carry the entire load overwhelms me, I think. And so I'm wrestling with that because so many jobs in the States are solo pastorate jobs because there's not the financial wherewithal to have like two people on staff. Certainly people are more attracted to a full-time job than a part-time job. So even splitting the job in two for economic reasons, people are like, well, I'd rather just take a full-time job because it's hard to piece together part-time jobs. But talk more about like, what do you think makes like that you've appreciated about your role in a team ministry, and how, if you've given thought to how that could be replicated even in other contexts?
Yeah, I do think about this a lot. I mean, I say this all the time that I believe the main reason for overall happiness in ministry for the past 2+ decades is that I have always worked in a team. Even when I was in a smaller church, we were still able to create this sense of team, of like there being more than just me at the helm. Right. And at the same time, I mean, I have always felt very clearly called to lead a church, like not to not to an associate role. Like I have always wanted to lead a church, or not wanted to, but felt like that was my direction. So I do count myself very fortunate that I have had the opportunity to do both of those things, to work with others and also to be able to lean into that sense of call. I mean, ultimately, I am hopeful for the future in certain contexts that can be more of a reality going forward. And like, again, there's a lot of caveats to what I'm going to say, but I think in urban areas where denominations are seriously wrestling with kind of the future of the church, I think that there is an opportunity for consolidating and investing resources in a way that equips more like ministry centers with teams, right? That's not going to work in like rural northern Ontario, for example. But in, say, St. Catharines, where I live, like there's, I think, 8 Anglican churches. And each one of those, has a collection of resources associated with it. Is the future of Anglicanism in St. Catharines going to be 8 separate churches in St. Catharines? Or is there a way of saying, okay, like we can be strategic about our resources in a way that equips teams and ministries for flourishing, not for just hanging on by the fingernails?
Yeah, let's flesh this out a little bit if that's okay, because I want to hear more. Because, like, let me say it from this way. Like, in evangelical church culture, especially like in big churches, the huge, like, behemoth campus model is sort of going away, and now they're leaning into like what's called satellite churches. Well, they'll have like a main campus, and then they'll have like a church, 20, 30 minutes away, and another shoot off church 20, 30 minutes away. And like the most obvious example is like this church called Life Church, which started in Oklahoma in the States. And now there's a church campus about 10 minutes from me, in Colorado of all places. And they video in, like the preaching is all videoed in, which is just sort of wild. And I've seen I'm seeing small examples of this in some mainline circles where they'll treat like a sort of there'll be a small struggling independent church and a bigger, more successful, sustainable, vibrant church will kind of take them over and adapt them and sort of as a different campus. But to me, like, this is a model that, like, I feel like I could so much more be successful in.
Interesting.
Like, if I'm like, I don't need to carry the whole thing, but I have, I'm in charge of X, Y, or Z, and I'm part of a team. And like, to me, like, I feel like I could really excel in that kind of role. And I think, like you said, for resources, like, we don't need, like, if there's one person, like, doing the finances and there's one person kind of overseeing children's ministry for all the campuses, like, obviously you're going to need to have some amount of staffing and volunteers for each campus to use that verbiage. But like you said, even if for resources, it makes so much more sense.
Yeah. I mean, as you're speaking, I'm feeling like there's kind of another element to all of this that we can probably be working at changing, which is just the like toxic clericalism, because the idea that like the pastor does carry the whole thing on their 2 little shoulders is like pretty toxic, like and should be good at everything and should know everything, and like the buck stops with them on everything. Like, even if you can't have like paid staff team. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
that should not be the model or the expectation. And, with things being in a state of like precipitous change
Mm-hmm.
and like need for like whether we like it or not, things are going to change and need to adjust or bust. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like hopefully there is some like just interrogating of those assumptions that haven't really served anybody well. Like name who is being served well by having to be good at everything and have all the expectations land on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like I'm not good at everything.
I'm not good at everything. Like I'm really not. Yeah. And as we were kind of saying offline before we started the conversation, like there are just aspects of ministry that probably any of us, if we're being honest, feel kind of exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And other parts that feel really life-giving.
Right.
And if you can figure out some different models going forward that um, that allow for more life-giving and less exhausting,
Yeah.
I like surely that's going to serve everybody better. It's not just like a matter of self-care of clergy. It's sort of a matter of like congregational vitality.
I want to reference just 2 episodes that I think relate to this. One was your conversation with William Harrison that I think relates to this conversation. I'm
Yeah,
thinking
that's right.
my conversation with, I think it's Ariana Malloy.
Yeah.
Again, she talked about kind of job crafting, but certainly like William Harrison's like do less with less
Yeah.
is like important here.
Good mantra. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're like an hour into this or we're away. So let's talk about Martha, soon here. Soon has a new book coming out. So we'll do like a full episode here later on that. But Martha, do you want to like talk about the book, the publishing process, anything there?
Yeah. So the book is coming out on May 5th. So that is just over 2 months away from the time of recording. So this is my third published book. I would say that the editing process on this book, for a variety of reasons, including just like it's way more research intensive than
Yeah.
other books I have done. So the editing process has been a lot longer than I was anticipating or have experienced before. But having said that, like I enjoy the editing process overall, even if sometimes things have landed in my email inbox and I have gasped with like the realization of looming deadlines that I wasn't quite anticipating. But
Ah,
thankfully, I am a morning person and love starting my day with a couple solid hours of editing manuscripts. So so that part is being okay. Right now, I'm in the thick of the part that, Loren, I really do struggle with. And I know that you have your own publishing journey ahead. So I'll be interested
yes.
to hear
Yeah.
how you experience the different components of it. But this part I find the trickiest, which is the part of like reaching out and trying to set up speaking engagements and trying to
Mm,
get people to read the book and review the book
mm-hmm.
um and help me get the word out and have me on their podcasts and like all of those um promotional parts
Yeah.
of the job I would rather not have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're similar in this, Martha, where I've realized like my sort of underlying assumption is like, you should want to know what I think.
Yeah.
People don't. And I need to tell them why.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. That I think that is interesting. Like I think we become so consumed with the project, like we become so consumed about it that we write a whole book about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it is sufficiently fascinating to us that it engages us for months, if not years at a time, getting these ideas
Right.
together. So it
Yes.
is easy just to think. I mean, when I finished my first book and was ready to take it to publishers, like I really had it in my head that I was going to present this to the first publisher and have them go, "Thank you. Like we have been waiting for this."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we cannot wait to get this out to our readers, And it's not that straightforward.
Yeah. It's funny. Oh, that's funny. I get you though, but I mean, it's sort of like, again, like even with like a Sunday sermon, right? Like you spend so much time wrestling with this idea. You're like, this is it.
I know. I know.
Like you should, and I think I mean, certainly the great thing about a Sunday sermon is you have the opportunity to express more emotion through other communication, your voice and energy, rather than just words on a page. But yeah.
That's true. I think that over the years, like I have tried to guard against those moments where I feel extremely pleased with how clever my Sunday sermon is because
Mm-hmm.
people aren't nearly as impressed by my cleverness as I sometimes fool myself into thinking.
Yeah. Okay. So for any aspiring writers out there, any kind of is it really just simple? Like for me, it's been just like setting aside time. Like I have a 3-hour block on Mondays. I just commit to doing this.
I think everybody's a little different, but when I decided I wanted to start writing, I remembered a writer that I liked saying that they wrote for 1 hour every morning. And
Mm-hmm.
like that was how they got books written and published. And I thought I could do that. Like I could do 1 hour every morning. So that's what works for me. I did have the privilege of a sabbatical last year that allowed me like whole days of being able to sit in libraries and look up little details of, things. But generally that has not been my luxury to enjoy over the years of writing. Like I have had to just squeeze it in the nooks and crannies of life, and 1 hour every morning has been sort of the commitment. So that's what works for me. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading the book, Anne Boleyn. I'm going to try to get my daughter to read it because she's been like studying like that sort of late Middle Ages in middle school, and I'm like, hey, this is kind of tracks with. I mean, it's a sort of the same roughly time span, right?
Yeah, I mean, my daughter tells me that Anne Boleyn and Joan of Arc are the two most popular historical figures for the TikTok generation. So
really,
yeah. So,
okay, wow.
I don't know what research she's basing that on, but like I think anecdotally, she's on to something. So I'll be interested to hear whether your daughter is interested in this.
That's fascinating. Well, yeah, that is interesting. Well, we'll see. So, Martha, anything else? Anything else? I hope this is helpful for listeners.
Yeah. I mean, I am looking forward to you getting the advance copy, Loren, and being able to talk about it in a more fulsome way. But it feels like the timing is really good on this book. So, for example, this year, 2026, is the 50th anniversary of the ordination of women in the Anglican Church of Canada.
Yeah.
And so I do have at least one speaking engagement on the calendar that is tied to that celebration in a meaningful way. Because really, like what I'm doing in this book it's not a book that's written specifically for a Christian audience. It is written for a general audience. Anne Boleyn is interesting to lots of people, but of like a real exploration of her life does challenge the idea that the the Anglican Church and the Reformation in general was primarily the work of men. That that here's one woman who had an enormous influence and impact in shaping the Reformation, and she was influenced by a variety of other women who also had an impact in how the Reformation got shaped. And, that's a pretty compelling, reclaiming of history, I think, at this juncture.
Sure.
So I'm hoping that people are going to find that meaningful as, we're celebrating women's leadership in our church. I hope that they're going to find it meaningful to realize that that the history of our church is maybe a lot more colorful and nuanced than we might have thought.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always obsessed with understanding where ideas came from and how those ideas have played out over history. And that's one of the things that really excites me about this, is getting a deep dive into that world and what happened in that context.
Yeah. Why she was talked about the way that she was talked about, why she's been talked about in the ways that she's been talked about since.
Right.
And it's not just that we really like salacious soap opera-esque stories of, women who misbehave and get their comeuppance. It's that actually her religious convictions were tied to a lot of the criticism that got lobbied at her. But then over the years, her religious beliefs have kind of dropped off the radar of what was important about her, and all that is left is the labels and the slandering. There were a lot of people who had a lot invested in slandering a Protestant woman.
Yeah. Oh, I almost if I'm sure there's some parallels we could draw up. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting a copy of the book, and it's available for pre-order right now, right?
It is available for pre-order through Church Publishing, of course, through Amazon. In Canada, you can pre-order it through Chapters Indigo. You can talk to your local bookseller about ordering it in. So lots of options.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to get this released here soon so folks can get it. We're at the end of February. So yeah, for sure. You'll have a couple months you'll have a couple months to get it ramped up, because then I'll ship the 5th, right? May 5th?
Yeah, May 5th.
Again, this is me learning about publishing process here in real time. So,
yeah, well, you're going to be on a learning curve ahead.
Well, should we wrap it up with this? Anything else you want to? We've been going here for a good long time.
Yeah, this has been delightful. I think that, having a little watershed for all of the things that we just sort of lightly text about here and there, being able to talk through in a more fulsome way, it's really interesting. And I think it's really interesting. Our countries are such close neighbors and share so much in common culturally, but also we're sort of worlds away from each other. It's really interesting to hear the different perspectives and experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, that's just a sort of depressing way to say it, but I think it's not inaccurate. So, Martha and I are doing here what we can to build up some neighborliness amongst our two nations. So,
keep that neighborliness going.
Keep that neighborliness going. So if you're in Canada listening, I have no qualms about saying I'm sorry. So I think this is one thing that I've tried to recognize, that I won't try to get too much into this again. But I think communal repentance, that's certainly something that's been emphasized in the United States around issues of racism and prejudice, is this idea of like communal repentance. And rather than being like, oh, I didn't vote for him or I didn't have that opinion, like we can repent regardless. So like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Honestly, like that's not nothing. Like, I think that one of the pieces that has been hard for us in Canada is feeling like, oh, we thought that we had this really important friendship between our two countries, and just the lack of concern and apology from those who don't support that agenda of coming after Canada has been surprising. Like, we've been surprised by the silence in a lot of ways. So just saying like, we actually care about you and about this and about the friendship. It matters. Yeah.
Well, Martha, it's always great to talk to you. We'll leave each other with a word of peace. And I certainly hope in this world we're in, like, we can share God's peace with you and with one another. So may God's peace be with you.
May God's peace be with you too, Loren, and with all of our listeners.
Thanks for joining us on the Future Christian Podcast. The Future Christian Podcast is produced by Resonate Media. We love to hear from our listeners with questions, comments, and ideas for future episodes. Visit our website at future-christian.com and find the Connect with Us form at the bottom of the page to get in touch with Martha or Loren. But before you go, do us a favor. Subscribe to the pod to leave a review. It really helps us get this out to more people. Thanks, and go in peace.